Finland has officially secured its position as the happiest country in the world for 7 consecutive years, according to the World Happiness Report. While many nations chase higher GDP and endless growth, Finland has taken a fundamentally different path. To them, happiness is not about the peaks of joy or flashy individual success. Instead, it is specifically about the absence of anxiety. Actually, the most striking difference between Finland and other advanced economies is the predictability of life. In many nations, a sudden job loss or a medical emergency can lead to a total life collapse. In Finland, however, the state functions as a massive and reliable insurance policy. This remarkably high level of social trust allows citizens to live without the constant fear of falling behind. Consequently, it creates a unique social atmosphere where people do not feel the need to compete desperately against their neighbors to survive. Furthermore, unlike the high-pressure meritocracies of the US or East Asia, Finnish happiness is found in lagom, the art of having just enough. They find deep contentment in what they call public luxuries. These include clean nature within walking distance, world-class education with zero tuition, and a social safety net that guarantees dignity for everyone. Ultimately, this systemic equality is what truly sets them apart from the rest of the world. It is a society where the gap between success and failure is kept narrow enough for everyone to feel secure. But this small nation of 5.5 million people was not always a symbol of happiness or a blessed land. In fact, for most of its history, Finland was one of the poorest and most war-torn corners of Europe. It was a place where people struggled to survive under the heavy shadows of powerful empires. So the real question becomes clear. What exactly transformed this once harsh and struggling territory into the world's happiest nation? To find that answer, we must travel back and dive into the stories of their painful and challenging past. Long before it became the happiest nation, Finland was a land defined by harsh nature and relentless hardship. For centuries, this territory was not even a sovereign state, but a mere battlefield where the Swedish and Russian empires clashed. The Finnish people had to endure the constant trauma of war, as their homes were repeatedly burned and their resources plundered by foreign armies. Consequently, poverty was not just a temporary phase, but a chronic condition that haunted almost every household. The most tragic chapter of the struggle occurred in the late 1860s. A devastating famine, known as the Great Hunger Years, wiped out nearly 10% of the entire population. Imagine a society where 1 in 10 people perished simply because there was no bread to eat. At that time, Finland was literally one of the most miserable corners of the world, far removed from any notion of happiness. Even after gaining independence in 1917, the path was never smooth. The nation was immediately torn apart by a brutal civil war, leaving deep scars of internal division that seemed impossible to heal. Furthermore, the shadows of the Second World War brought the nation to the brink of extinction once again. While the rest of Europe was being reshaped, Finland had to fight a lonely and desperate war against the Soviet Union. They eventually survived, but the price of peace was incredibly heavy. The nation lost a significant portion of its land and was forced to pay massive war reparations that crippled its already fragile economy. Back then, no one could have predicted that this bankrupt and exhausted nation would someday lead the world in happiness. Everything about their past suggested a future of struggle, not prosperity. However, it was precisely in this era of absolute despair that the first seeds of the Finnish miracle began to sprout. The transformation of Finland did not happen by chance. Instead, it started with a desperate realization that they could no longer survive as a divided nation. After the trauma of the Civil War and the heavy burden of war reparations, the Finnish leadership and its people made a historic choice. They decided that the only way to protect their sovereignty was to build a society where every single citizen felt valued. This was the beginning of a social contract rooted in extreme pragmatism and radical equality. Surprisingly, the massive war reparations they owed to the Soviet Union became an unexpected catalyst for industrialization. To pay off the debt, Finland was forced to rapidly develop its manufacturing and engineering sectors. As the economy began to shift from simple forestry to advanced industry, the government made a strategic decision to invest the newly generated wealth into its people. They didn't just build factories. they built a comprehensive education system and a healthcare network that was accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or income. Furthermore, this period saw the birth of the unique Finnish consensus culture. Labor unions, business leaders, and the government began to sit at the same table to discuss the future of the nation. They realized that internal conflict was a luxury they could not afford while living next to a superpower. As a result, they focused on creating a high-trust society where the benefits of growth were shared as fairly as possible. By prioritizing social stability over individual greed, Finland laid the groundwork for a system that would eventually eliminate the fear of survival. This was not just an economic change, but a complete redesign of what a nation should be for its people. Through this long and patient process, Finland gradually transformed into the sophisticated and secure society we see today. So, how does this system actually work in the daily lives of Finnish people? At the heart of their happiness is a social architecture that proactively removes the biggest stressors of modern life. In Finland, the state provides a seamless safety net from the cradle to the grave. For instance, parents do not have to worry about the astronomical costs of childcare or university tuition, because these are treated as fundamental rights rather than market products. Consequently, young people can choose their career paths based on their passions and talents, rather than being forced into high-paying jobs just to pay off student debts. This freedom from financial pressure is the primary reason why Finnish society feels so remarkably calm. Furthermore, the physical and social environment is designed to foster a sense of belonging and equality. Finnish cities are built around the concept of public luxury, where high-quality libraries, clean parks, and efficient public transport are accessible to everyone. In this environment, even the most successful individuals live relatively modest lives, which prevents the toxic culture of social comparison. Because the gap between the rich and the poor is kept small through progressive taxation and robust welfare, people do not feel the need to show off their wealth to prove their worth. Actually, for a Finn, true status is not found in a luxury car, but in the time spent enjoying a quiet sauna or walking in a forest that belongs to everyone. This unique system is sustained by an incredibly high level of trust between the government and its citizens. When Finns pay their taxes, which are among the highest in the world, they do not see it as a loss. Instead, they view it as a collective investment in a society that will protect them whenever they fall. Because they know that the system is transparent and fair, there is very little corruption or social resentment. Ultimately, Finnish happiness is the result of a collective choice to prioritize social harmony over individual competition. It is a society that has successfully proven that a nation's greatest wealth is the peace of mind of its people. However, even the most stable systems are not immune to the shifting winds of the global landscape. Actually, behind the perfect statistics of the world's happiest nation, significant challenges are beginning to surface. The most immediate threat comes from the changing geopolitical environment. For decades, Finland's neutrality was a core pillar of its stability. However, the recent escalation of regional tensions has forced the nation to abandon its long-standing non-alignment policy and join NATO. This historic shift has led to a massive increase in defense spending. Consequently, Finland is now facing a difficult dilemma: how to fund national security without cutting back on the very welfare programs that define its happiness. Furthermore, a severe demographic crisis is quietly undermining the foundation of the Finnish model. Like many other developed nations, Finland is aging rapidly, and its birth rate has fallen to record lows. As the working-age population shrinks, the tax revenue needed to sustain the generous social safety net is under immense pressure. To solve this labor shortage, the government is considering more open immigration policies. Yet, this move has triggered a heated social debate. There are growing concerns about whether a society built on such a high level of cultural homogeneity can successfully integrate newcomers while maintaining its unique social trust. In addition to these structural issues, the Finnish economy itself is at a crossroads. The days of Nokia's dominance are long gone, and the nation is struggling to find a new growth engine in a hyper-competitive global market. High taxes and rigid labor regulations, which were once seen as the secrets to equality, are now being criticized by some as obstacles to innovation and agility. Younger generations are starting to feel a different kind of pressure as they worry about whether the prosperous world their parents built can actually last. The cracks in the paradise are becoming visible, and the Finnish people are realizing that their happiness is not a permanent gift, but something that requires constant and painful adaptation. So, facing all these challenges, the final question is this: will the Finnish people be able to remain happy in the years to come? And what will their future look like? While the world watches these cracks with concern, Finland is not paralyzed by fear. Instead of clinging to the past, they are actively engaging in painful social compromises to adapt their cherished model to a new era. This resilience is possible because the Finnish system is not a rigid set of rules, but a living organism that breathes through the collective will of its people. Even as they debate difficult issues like immigration and economic restructuring, the underlying trust between the state and the citizen remains the ultimate shock absorber. Ultimately, they are proving that the true strength of a nation is not measured by the absence of problems, but by the capacity to solve them together. Now, looking back at their journey, we might begin to glimpse a small but profound truth about the nature of happiness. Perhaps happiness is not a state of having everything we want. Rather, it is a state where anxiety about the basic necessities of life has been completely removed. Finland's story teaches us that true happiness is not just an individual achievement. It is the greatest form of safety that a society can provide to its citizens. Consequently, what Finland shows the world is that happiness is not a final result to be won through endless competition. It is a minimum level of human dignity that a society must guarantee for everyone. In fact, the invisible wealth of Finland has always been the social trust they share, even in times of crisis. It is this profound sense of security that allows them to face an uncertain future with a calm and steady heart. Through the path this small nation has taken, we are given a deep and meaningful opportunity to reflect on our own lives. It leaves us with one final heavy question: what kind of society should a nation truly build to guarantee the happiness of its people?